Hey Wednesday Wanderers, I'm Ranger Erin, and today we are wondering, did octopuses ever live in Kentucky? And unfortunately the answer to that is no, octopus never lived in Kentucky, but their ancestors in the cephalopod class did live here. So that cephalopod class, we still have a whole bunch of creatures that are living in that cephalopod class that are alive today. You might know some of them. They include our squid, our cuttlefish, our octopus, and our nautilus. 450 million years ago, during the Ordovician period, these animals were a lot like the nautilus living today. They lived inside of a shell. They had tentacles coming out that they could capture all of their prey. They lived in that salt water area, and this whole area was under a warm, shallow ocean. So it was a great place for those cephalopod to be that apex predator, eating all of the other creatures that were swimming and darting around here. Our cephalopods are related to some other mollusks that you might know as well, like snails and clams and slugs and mussels. But unlike all of those other invertebrates, our cephalopods are the smartest of all of those invertebrates. So those animals that don't have backbones. These carnivores are very, very clever, and they can solve some puzzles. Now, they don't have brains like we do. We've got one big brain where we do all of our thinking, and we send out messages through our arms and our legs, and everything else is sort of obeying our brain or taking in information and sending it up to the brain. But for our cephalopods, their brain is kind of spread throughout their body. So they can think with each one of their tentacles. They can't think of those really big ideas, so we've got a huge brain that we can do really big problems to solve, but they can solve lots of little problems. One arm might be over here opening up a shell, another one over there might be digging, another one might be anchoring itself to the floor, and all 8 of those tentacles could be doing totally different things because their brain is spread out through their body and each tentacle is thinking for itself. You might be asking yourself about those octopuses. Wait, you've said shell a few times. I've never seen an octopus with a shell, and that's true. But back in that Ordovician period, all of our cephalopods had those shells. And over time, as some of those animals changed and turned into different species, some of them did lose their shell. Some of those shells went inside, like that squid has an internal shell, and that octopus just lost the shell entirely. But back during the Ordovician period, all of them had those long tube-like shells, and they looked a lot like the nautilus. Instead of curled up, they had a long shell, and then inside that soft-bodied creature would have those big, long tentacles that they could dart out and grab their prey. And they are fast. They are sprinters rather than marathon swimmers. So they can go really fast by squirting out water, and it'll make them shoot forward so they can grab that prey or get away from another predator really quickly, but they wouldn't be able to keep that up for a very long time. Soft bodies don't turn into fossils very well. There's a few tentacles that have been preserved in the fossil record, but most of our fossils are gonna be those shells. So you're gonna see long tubes. A lot of these fossils are gonna look like those long tubes. You might see some segments on there. They might be hollow on the inside. They might have crystals. Some of them might have filled in on the inside, but they still kind of have that tube-like shape. It's really neat when you do find that one that's hollow all the way through, and you can see that that was a shell that an animal lived inside of. I'm already going to start you off with your first activity, and I'm going to ask you to think like an octopus. You're going to do a few different tasks. So your first one is you are going to pat your head, and then you're going to rub your belly, and then stand on one foot. It's already getting hard, right? All right, now point and flex your other toe that's up in the air. Now can you turn that standing leg into a jump? How many tasks can you do before you lose them all? For your indoor activity, you're going to take some type of moldable clay or Play-Doh, and you're going to make an octopus. And it can be doing different tasks. It can be doing all the same task, but just play around with those 8 tentacles and making some type of shape. You can even make it that old-fashioned cephalopod, the ancestor with a big old shell. For your hike, I'm going to ask you to find a gravel bar, which is going to be an area of the creek that's going around a bend, and it leaves behind a whole bunch of gravel and rocks, and it's a great place to find some fossils. So our trails in the park that you might look for that'll take you to a gravel bar: Floyd's Flats in Beckley Creek. Down in Turkey Run, there's a trail called Boone's Bottoms. And then down in Broad Run Park, you might want to check out Riparian Ramble. All of them have really great gravel bars to go searching for some of those cephalopod fossils. When you're looking for those fossils, just pick up a whole handful of different types of rocks and then look closely and see if any of them look like animals. You will have to look closely. You can't just kind of walk around. Make sure you're practicing leave no trace and that all of those fossils stay there for the next people to come through and check them out so that we aren't stealing from nature. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you all next time.